Welcome to this episode of Thrive with Us. Today, we're going to be talking about co-regulation, a concept that might be familiar to some of you and less familiar to others. But if you've ever felt the stress of your partner or the calm of your partner, then you know exactly what we're talking about. Today, I'm joined by Rita and Joslin to unpack what it is and how it works and how we can use it to improve our well-being and our relationships. Welcome, Joslin and Rita. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Sarah. It's great to be here.
So let's get right into it. Co-regulation. I gave a very, very, very brief intro on that. How do you define it? What does it mean?
I think for me, co-regulation is about connection and safety coming together. So it's two nervous systems, two people together being able to hold on to their connection and being able to strengthen the safety and security that is going on in the present moment. So I think it's a very momentary concept. Safety is something that our mind is constantly looking for. And to be able to co-regulate is to be able to say, it's okay, let's calm down, or let's take a break, or let's breathe together, or just noticing things in one another, which is, you seem upset, or what's going on? I'm here, eager to know more. So yeah, I think I've kind of branched into like so much with just the definition of co-regulation. I think that's what this topic really does because there's so much attached to it. But I think I'm going to let Rita speak now.
No, I have not much to add, but usually I define co-regulation with my couples, the couples I see, as this dance. People or couples are kind of two planets that at some point gravitated to each other in the expansion of the universe. And they have, so these two planets, they have their own mass and volume and rotation speed. They're different, right? But they are trying to find this dance between them. And this is the dance of co-regulation most of the times. But I want to highlight something. I think key word here, and most importantly, co-regulation is this way that we have to use my partner's calm to help me calm down. But most importantly, it's about finding that safety in the relationship.
Okay, so I can hear from both of your definitions that co-regulation is a broad and expansive topic, and I can imagine that it's something that comes up quite a bit in the context of your couple sessions and that it's a skill that you try to help couples with. So I guess what I'm taking away from what you both shared is two people come together in a relationship, they pick up on each other's energy, right? And if both people are activated, then that can be a little bit of a challenge.
It's co-dysregulation.
Yes, co-dysregulation. If one person is activated, then, you know, there might be a different outcome. So why don't we talk about how co-dysregulation and other disruptions show up in the therapy room? What do you notice?
Yeah.
So usually, well, as you all know, people come to therapy with help us communicate a bit better, right? And usually the problem is not the words that we're using. The problem is the version of ourselves that we're using in certain moments. And to your point, Sarah, usually people get easily co-dysregulated, right? And we all can relate to this. If I enter a room and I pick up the vibe of the room immediately. So this is quite important to understand that our bodies are wired to detect, identify threat or danger immediately and react to it in order to protect ourselves. So usually when we are stressed out, and that can be outside of the couple's world, right? It can be just because I had a very stressful day at work and I come home and I still have that stress in my body, and my partner will detect that and react to that even before being cognitively aware of it, right? And we do react to that. So usually in couples therapy, we help couples to understand these first cues in the body that I can identify in my body, but also in my partner's body, and I can detect that, name it, and say, hey, I feel that my jaw is clenching, or I feel that my heart is racing. Maybe we should calm down, or can we breathe together for a minute, right? So usually we see that, and I'm going to let Joslin complement this before going into patterns of interaction, because I think it's important to name it.
Yeah, I think Rita has really put that out so beautifully, because that is the nature of co-regulation. It starts with the body. And somewhere not being able to be in sync with our own body will obviously make it very hard for us to be in sync with our partner's body. And I think negative body reactions tend to be verbal and noticed faster. But then there are so many things that happen before even that extent of when the verbal reaction comes out, the negative verbal reaction comes out. So being able to understand small little minute shifts in the body that's happening for myself and for my partner, or being able to see it in my partner, is, I think, a skill that can help build connection, build safety. So yes, so that's the most common form of dysregulation that we see, where we're just not able to understand what is going on. And just to add on to that, I think our unmet needs from that moment, and I think that's what she meant by the patterns we'll get into, the unmet needs from now, but also from the past, comes alive for us, with triggers, with different realities that we are living in that moment. And not being able to understand that for myself or oneself also then makes it very harder for me to understand for my partner. And also, I think co-regulation is also a lot about helping my partner understand me. And I think couples are not able to do that solely because they're not able to understand their own shifts. So it's very hard for them to kind of take it to their partner and say, these are my shifts, this is what happens, this is what it means. And I think that is also a very important component of co-regulation, is helping my partner understand me as a person, unique in my own shifts, in my own behaviors, and in my own ways of regulation.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think what I'm hearing from you is that often it can start with a single person, and the weight of the day or whatever's going on for them manifests physiologically, as it does for all of us. That's like a survival mechanism for us. And then, just imagining someone walking in the door after maybe being stuck in gridlock traffic for like 90 minutes at the end of a very long and hectic day in Q4, which is when we're filming this right now. And, just being on high alert, and that spilling over into the couple's context, into the broader household dynamic. And so it happens to all of us that we get activated. It's very normal. But what I'm hearing from the two of you is that it's very, very important for us to start to detect some of those signs. And the earliest signs, or among the earliest signs, are the ones that show up in our body. And Joslin, I think you referenced the clenching of the jaw, right? You notice that the tension there. You might notice something in your stomach, whatever it is. And over time, if you're able to detect that this is a warning sign that I'm about to erupt, then it's a little bit easier to intervene, right? And you're also saying that your partner can also start to pick up on some of those cues and maybe change the way that they're interacting with you and suggesting some co-regulation. Both of you said, let's breathe together. So I feel like this is an important thing. Talk to me about some of the dynamics and some of the strategies. Maybe we can start with the dynamics.
So what I see the most, and I think Joslin will recognize this too, is what we call the withdrawer-pursuer dynamic, right? This is very common because actually people tend to couple in this way. One is more pursuer, the other one is a withdrawer. And what we mean by this is, for example, if I feel disconnected from you, partner, I try to bring it up in a way that shows, or I try to communicate that to you with anger or criticism. And that immediately sets you, partner, off, right? And you get defensive, probably. But your defensiveness, or you withdraw, and your defensiveness or withdraw, you communicate to me that you are ignoring me, or you don't care, which is even deeper. So that will increase my anxiety or my fear or my feelings of abandonment or rejection, or I feel just ignored by you. And that heightens my sensation of disconnection. So I pursue you even more. I ask questions, I raise my voice, I try to fix things. The most important thing for me in that moment is for you to answer my questions, to give me something back. But this pulls you even more away. So this is a very common dynamic I see in the therapy room. And it's quite important to give this explanation of the loop to the couples. And immediately, I think you recognize this too, immediately when they see it, sometimes I draw in my papers the loop, and they are like, this makes so much sense. This is us. But then we can understand, and to your point, Joslin, when we are able and when we focus our attention in understanding my partner's experience, that opens up a whole new world, right? And we leave that space of trying to find who is the right or wrong in this dynamic or in this interaction, argument, discussion, but we focus on just being with that emotion from my partner, right? I don't want to fix it. I want to be with it.
Yeah, I think very well put. And just to add to what Rita is saying, I think you were talking about, the patterns and what kind of keeps couples in a very dysregulated state. I think a lot of their own attachments, right? So as I was talking about the unmet needs, I think that's the baggage we're constantly carrying as to, somebody who has an anxious attachment is constantly kind of adding that, how can you reassure me? How can you reassure me? How can you reassure me? And it's constantly collecting the stones on an everyday basis. But at the end of the day, those stones kind of don't go into a depository or a place where it can be stored, but they're let go of. And then next day again is collecting again and again, versus somebody with avoidant attachment is very much, to be safe, I need to be mostly on my own, distanced, not as vulnerable. So the same dynamic that Rita has put forward, I'm kind of putting it in attachment terminologies of, a pursuer is someone with anxious attachment, and the withdrawer is someone with avoidant attachment. And they're constantly, as you draw that loop, they're understanding that there is that insecurity that they are holding on to. And what that does is, that's like you're playing football match in two different teams, right? But being a couple, being in a relationship, and me choosing someone, and when a couple comes together, it's actually the important skill that you're learning is how to be we instead of versus, right? And that's co-regulation. Like, it's the we that you keep learning on an everyday basis, instead of me feeling important and cared for and like my need is important right now. We are shifting the focus to our needs are important. And if we are not able to meet that right now, yes, we can take a break. And I get so much, I don't want to say backlash, but so much resistance. I think the right word is resistance from somebody with an anxious attachment, because I instantly hear the partner go, but what about me? Like you're asking me, like you're giving the other partner what they want, which is avoidance. And then I have to sit and explain that it's not avoidance. It's communicating, I want to help us, but I can't. And it might be in different words. And sometimes I even put co-regulation terms in front of couples, and I say things like, what would happen if you would say to your partner, I really want to finish this discussion right now, but internally there's so much going on for me that I just can't. I really have to take a break, calm myself down, and then we can continue discussing this. And a lot of times I even hear from partners, but that's not me. That's your words. Those are not my words. And then I kind of remind them that my words don't have to be their words. It's basically taking the crux of that, because my words are examples, right? It's an example of what it would mean to take time out or take a break, but in a more healthier manner versus storming out or stonewalling. And you kind of see that when couples are then able to kind of implement something as small as this, they're actually building a system in place of co-regulation. And then they're able to be so much calmer when the topic is then taken up. And yes, there are some topics that are known to be perpetual problems.
Issues.
And then triggering problems. And then again, even those, I think in couples work, we kind of put so many systems in place that all of that is that co-regulation work that kind of balances out that pursuer, withdrawer dynamic.
Yeah, and just to add something, because I think we didn't mention clearly. Both partners, when I am the one who pursues you, I am trying to find my calm, my center, my connection, my needs through closeness.
Yes.
On the other hand, you are trying to, while you distance yourself, you are also trying to find your calm, your center, your peace, and connection with me in the end. So it's just two different languages achieving or trying to achieve the exact same outcome. And I think that explaining this to couples is sometimes very helpful, because they understand that, after all, we are sharing a common space here. We do empathize with that. It's just our languages that are different and probably based on early experiences, attachment, all of that.
Yeah, I think there's a few things that are coming up for me as I hear the two of you talking about the dynamics and their roots and how they're manifesting. One of them is, yes, the pursuer withdrawer dynamic is extremely common. It's like the cat and mouse game in a lot of ways. And I think what's tricky, and one of the things that people really misunderstand, is that both people are trying, like you said, Rita, to achieve the same thing. But at the same time, both people are also suffering and feeling activated. It's easier to see the activation in the pursuer, right? Because they're going for it. They're chasing. They're trying to engage you. And even if they're trying to engage you through the criticism or the nagging or whatever it is, it's visible. They're in distress. Whereas for the withdrawer, they look cool, calm, and collected. And I think part of the frustration sometimes for the pursuer is it's like, I'm so upset right now and I just want you to make me feel better, and you're just cold and like very blasé about it. And it's like, no, they're not. It just looks really, really different. So that's one of the things that sort of came up as I listened to the two of you share. The other thing that I think is really, really important is this whole collaboration versus competition, right? Seeing that we have the same objective and that we're on the same side, because I think probably we can all agree that there's no such thing as one person wins and the other person loses. You either both win or you both lose. So we need to find a way to kind of see that we're aligned and we're on the same page. And sometimes that does involve taking a break And I know the resistance. I'm sure you've experienced it too. It's like, but no, I'm going to explode if we don't talk about this right now. And I really like the Gottman's way of approaching it, which is like we put a limit on that so that like at least the anxious person or the pursuer knows that like your time is coming, you'll have an opportunity to chat about it. And there's like a frame, because without that frame, and what I've seen previously in my work with couples is, you know, they go their separate ways, they're doing their thing, calming down, blah, blah, blah. And the pursuer is like, when is he coming? And often it is gendered. It's not always, but often it is the female that's the pursuer. When is he going to come and talk to me? And then he still hasn't come to talk to me. And then, oh my God, I can't believe it's been so long. And then by the time this guy is ready, she's angry again, right? So the time limit, I think, really does help a lot.
Yes.
Yeah, when correctly done.
Yes.
Yeah, when correctly done.
Because
So true.
the timeout is a famous technique, yes. But what I see sometimes is that my clients, they learn how to do that. But then at some point they start to weaponizing
Yes.
which is a problem, of course.
I think what happens quite a lot with couples is, especially in dysregulated states, is there is such a focus on I'm struggling. This is a lot for me, and in different forms and different languages and different ways that's showing up for me. And there's an internal focus, which makes co-regulation very difficult, because at that moment, external focus is also needed, but for some reason it's not happening. Not because lack of care, no, not at all. It's because that suffering, it's like how I say, when you've cut your hand, and maybe somebody else is also going through something like that, but somehow, your pain is your focus, right? So I think in couples work, one of the most beautiful things that I see is this dynamic of how to care for myself and how to care for my partner. And I think that's what makes, because you can then see couples really take that with them in so many different ways and beautifully in their own way. Because couples therapy is not a template that you follow to the dot. It's something that you take away with you. And I see each couple kind of so beautifully put that together. And that really, really reduces that dysregulated state so much, which then helps the relationship and the connection so much. And then you have more co-regulation that keeps happening within the relationship.
That's so true. It's wonderful. It's wonderful when we can witness that transformation in the room. Sometimes with words, a couple who says, "Hey, I think you're a bit nervous now. Do you want us to slow down?" And I'm like, wow. Or when they don't say a word, but they reach out and they touch with their hands, right? When their partner is in distress. And this is amazing, right? This is what we want them to transfer to reality.
Yeah, no, it is definitely something beautiful to witness, and it's something that takes time and energy and practice, and it's something that's never going to be done perfectly all of the time, right? We're human. Even if we can build that muscle, there are going to be some lapses. But I wanted to ask you a little bit about self-regulation versus co-regulation, right? Because we're talking a lot about how, we bring our own stuff into it, and we can support and soothe one another and kind of come together and bring a feeling of calm as opposed to chaos. But at what point should people be regulating themselves as opposed to trying to engage in co-regulation strategies?
That's very important, because I think they go hand in hand, right?
Yes.
Of course, one doesn't exist without the other. But actually, that's something that comes up in my sessions quite frequently. This idea that I shouldn't be fixing my partner's emotions. And that's true in a way. Ultimately, we are responsible for our own emotions, right? What we feel and what do I do with it, it's on me, right? Although we do understand that we influence each other so we can help each other. But ultimately, this is my responsibility. I need to be aware of my triggers and how my body responds and what I tend to do with that, and how that impacts my partner. But yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I forgot something I was about to say, but maybe Joslin can.
Yeah. So to add to what Rita was just saying, I think what I constantly see in couples is getting used to this whole dynamic of co-regulation, understanding each other, and your question of self-regulation, exactly like how Rita has put it, definitely goes hand in hand. But we also have to understand sometimes trauma, self-protective modes play a very big role there. Because while my partner could, while partner A could say to partner B, you seem upset with what I've just said, that could make the defenses come up, the self-protective mode come up. But as that co-regulation keeps happening a lot, that can enforce a lot of self-regulatory mechanisms. And I think we see it in our work with couples and even in our individual work, where when you just focus on validating your partner's experience at the time, or just kind of putting in front what you're seeing in your partner based on what you know about your partner already, over time, that helps a lot with self-regulation, especially, and at this point, especially is for partners, humans, individuals who have a lot of self-protective modes, which at the triggered moment, self-regulation can feel very, very difficult.
Yeah.
Right? So self-regulation is not missing, but at that moment where, it needs to come active, it doesn't, because the trigger is that big, the unmet need is that big, and then there is an activation that happens. But I've noticed that, over time, when couples are continuously trying to co-regulate in some form or the other, there is a transition. There is okay, when my partner said that, there is care in that. There is wanting to help me, wanting to comfort me. And I think it's very important for us to understand the intention.
Yes.
Because I think co-regulation, I want to connect with you. I want you to feel safe, right? So that's the intention. And I think that intention is very important, because when you have your self-protective mode up, I don't think you're able to see that intention, not because you don't want to, but it's just, it's like you find yourself in, I don't know, in a very closed space where there isn't a lot of room. But over time, co-regulation that the partner does can definitely bring a lot of change in self-regulation. But then again, that is one dynamic of one type of a couple. There are other couples where the defenses are not very up, self-protective modes, exile paths are not very, very up. So you don't really need, co-regulation is happening with self-regulation. And a little bit of effort is definitely creating a lot of change. So the reason why I'm giving both these different dynamics is because a lot of times we forget that relationships are a lot of work, right? And of course, it's the work we want to put in, because the safety we feel from those relationships are like so comforting, and they really hold a special space and keeps our oxidative stress down and our oxytocin levels up. Like, there's so many benefits of that companionship that are so worth it, that you really want to put in that work, and you really want to learn the skill of co-regulation because of what it can do to your relationship.
And I know already what I was about to say. I wanted to make a bridge with the repair part. After we lost it, right? Or I lost it. And I recognized that my self-regulation skills were not on point early in the morning, but I can reach out to my partner when I'm calmed down and I say something like, sorry, I snapped at you in the morning. I didn't want to. And this is about self-regulation and also co-regulation, right? This is also important, and it's our responsibility. I think I'm stressing the word responsibility about self-regulation because it is an individual responsibility, even about my partner's well-being, right? It is also my responsibility.
Yeah, I think that's a brilliant point about repair, because without self-regulation, without the self-awareness, without sitting with what happened for me yesterday or the hour before, we're not going to be able to make that repair. So, and that repair is very, very important, because at the end of the day, our relationship, the crux of it, the importance of it, and I think I cannot say these words enough: safety, connection. Like this is what we are in the relationship for. This is why we have so much conflict. And conflict is not a bad thing.
No.
Conflict is basically saying, I need more of you. Of course, in different forms. There's healthy and not healthy. And I'm not here sitting and saying, be in conflict and stay in conflict. But I think when you understand yourself better, and making that repair is definitely the very important piece to the self-regulation, which is very important in relationships, because it's you in that relationship, it's your partner in that relationship, and then together you'll make the relationship. So we cannot forget the you component there, along with the we component.
Yeah. So they're complementary. So I definitely hear and I agree with both of you in that self-regulation is important. We do have a responsibility, and really the only thing that we have control and power over is ourselves. At the same time, co-regulation can be complementary. It's not about, you're regulating your partner or, co-regulating only, like we need to be responsible for ourselves, but we can also do it in tandem as a way of kind of expressing that connection and fulfilling that need for safety that all of us have. One of the things that I was thinking as both of you were talking is, how do we reach for, literally and metaphorically, our partners? Like, let's say in the example you were just saying, Rita, someone woke up in the morning and maybe through some self-reflection they discover, I'm more pleasant with my partner after I've had my coffee. So we'll delay our chats in the morning until then. But one person has sort of snapped. The other partner, because of various circumstances, skills, just that day, is able to recognize that she or he is not being themselves in this moment. I want to reach for them. How do they do that? What does that look like? Touch, I think, is one way. What are some other ways that we can kind of symbolize or convey that we're here together and try to start that co-regulation process?
Usually using the body is crucial, right? Using all the body cues, looking at your eyes, right? And tune to your body. I can see that your body is tense. I can feel my body a bit tight, whatever, right? Using touch, actually that works wonderfully. Even if I am having in the moment a discussion with my partner, if I touch and if I ask, can I hold your hand? The brain gets confused, right? How come? And I am trying to fight with you if we are touching each other. So everything shifts immediately, right? So touch is important. Looking at each other's eyes is important. The tone of the voice is also an important skill, if you want. But also words, certain words. When I say, I snapped at you, but I still love you. This meta communicates that I'm here. I'm not running away. It's fine. I accept that you lost it in the morning, or I lost it in the morning, but this doesn't change our connection. So some words are important. Silence sometimes is also important. Actually, I teach the couples I see a very basic skill. I call it 3H, the letter H. And the idea is, if you, partner, come to me and you're upset with something, I can, instead of jumping into what I think you need from me, I can just ask. And using this mnemonic, do you want me to help you? And I'm going to turn on my solution-focused mind, and I'll give you a lot of advice, suggestions, ideas, whatever. Do you want me to just hear you and I'm just going to listen? Or do you want a hug? And this sometimes soothes everything immediately, right?
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah. Because I feel like a lot of times we don't know what the other person needs.
We assume.
We assume all the time. And a lot of that comes from, how we would have liked something.
Yes.
Right? But that's not necessary that somebody else would like the same thing. I constantly say this. Sometimes even it's hard for me to like the same kind of comfort all the time. So how can I let my partner do the guesswork of what kind of comfort I might need for that particular day? So when something like this, like a system is in place, you're able to use that to exactly give your partner what they need, because they're able to communicate that to you. And that really definitely makes a huge difference in how you're feeling, in even recovery of what the dysregulation you might have just gone through.
Yeah.
The other thing that I would like to add, quite a lot that Rita put out, I think just spacing your breath. I think it does so much changes when you can just do a little bit of just slowing that breath down can do so much to your body, because your body is struggling the most when it's going through a trigger or a dysregulated state. And we were touching upon, we're humans. We are going to be dysregulated.
Of course.
There is no, I get asked a lot of times what it means to be a perfect partner, perfect parent. The word perfect doesn't come close to therapy because the word perfect actually doesn't exist, right? So I think it's very important to understand that, you're just meeting, something as beautiful as a 3H. You're just helping your partner and yourself be attuned. And attunement is very, very important, because misattunement is dysregulation. And being attuned is co-regulated.
No, I think this is really important. I really love this 3H mnemonic that you're using, because what we see a lot of times, and probably also experienced in various relationships in our own lives too, is, one person is really struggling. They're activated for whatever reason. They have a difficult time articulating what it is that they want. They might also think, well, I've been with you, or you've known me for a long time. You should understand when I'm giving you the stink eye or the silent treatment, or I'm nagging you about this, you should know what I'm trying to say. So, having the partner ask that question, or giving them the tool to be able to articulate what it is they need, makes it easier for that need to be fulfilled, because we see people not saying what they need for one reason or another. And then we see people slipping into the way that they would like that problem to be solved. And again, I feel like I'm being very gendered today, but a lot of times what I've seen historically is, male partners will be like, okay, you're telling me about this, or you're upset about this, let's fix it.
Yeah.
This is what you need to do, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, thanks, but not the right time. Not the right time. Right now, and I've definitely said this in my own life, right now, I just want to bitch, and moan about everything. And I just want you to understand that I'm feeling really frustrated. Keep those fantastic solutions for when I'm ready to hear them. And similarly with the hug thing, some people, when they're dysregulated, that is so soothing. And for other people, it's like, just get away from me. I don't want to touch you. I don't want you to touch me.
Yeah.
But, I think as well, this emphasis on the breath is so key, because it physiologically, it makes a difference. It's something that we all have, access to and
It's
that
free.
we can control, and it's free. So I think, there's a lot of moving parts, but Joslin, towards the end of what you were sharing, you said attunement. And I think we need to talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah. I think attunement is as simple as just matching the energy. I think that's the simplest way we can put that. I think it's about, the phrase read the room.
Yeah.
I think it's about read the partner, read yourself
totally.
and read your partner. So I think I was talking some time back about how, when we are in pain, it's so easy to kind of focus on, oh, this is happening for me and this is how I'm feeling and I don't feel cared right now and I don't think my partner is understanding me. Attunement is just that a little opening of, while I'm going through all of this, what is my partner going through?
Yeah.
Like the little window, not even a full-blown door, like a little window, if you can open, it will open more, because suddenly what you are seeing, the body cues, their breath, they are the way their eyes are, or their eye contact is right now. All of that will tell you so much, as well as, of course, the words that might be coming out that tell you so much of what's going on, which I think can make such a vast difference in that reality that's being lived right there and the safety that both the partners are feeling right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think attunement comes when people understand or it comes easier when people understand why my partner is reacting in this way.
Yes.
And I think therapy helps a lot in understanding the triggers, the patterns. Where does this come from?
Yeah.
If someone grew up in a household where anger meant danger, I'm going to react to that. And probably the most clever thing I had to do was to protect myself, to become almost invisible, unnoticeable. And we transfer these patterns to the romantic relationships in our adult life. So sometimes attunement is also reminding myself that, this is probably happening for them right now. Because I was angry in the morning, or earlier today I was a bit snappy, they are going through something. And it's considering that past history, not only what's happening right now in front of my eyes, but considering that past, right? This is also attunement.
Yeah, beautiful. I think it's really, really needed, that understanding of, and you were mentioning Gottman some time back, and I think Gottman, as well as the EFT model, talks a lot about, just knowing your partner's world.
Yes.
Right? Everything they have been through, everything, every reality that they have lived, and every theme or pattern they're carrying. And this definitely helps. So we see partners who are able to attune better are partners who know this.
Exactly.
Who have good idea of their partner's world. So it's not just about, I just know you now, or I just know this is where we are right now. No, I also know what you have been through. And that helps me understand where you are right now.
Yeah.
So, which is, again, a very important component.
Yeah, I think so. And I think one of the things that's really important for us to understand in our close relationships is, when you're trying to attune, it doesn't mean that you're invalidating your own perspective. Like, two things can be true at once. We can be clashing over something, my experience, my perspective of it, the emotions and things that are coming up for me because of my history and my baggage in the relationship and outside of the relationship. It's valid. And by you recognizing it, it doesn't mean that you're invalidating your own. And this is, again, the emphasis on collaboration and not competition. It's not, I have to stick to my guns because I don't want to lose. It's like, okay, both of us can have a point here, and we need to understand where it's coming from. And I think this historical piece is really important, because all of us have baggage. All of us had various experiences, and our relationships in childhood are the blueprints, like it or not, for our relationships in adulthood. So you were saying about anger and people making themselves invisible because that was something that worked when they were younger. also I'm thinking about, people who grew up getting the silent treatment from their caregiver as a way to express disapproval, and then imagining them being the pursuer in that relationship. And when they're met with that silence, it's doubly or exponentially painful, because it's also in some ways taking them back to being that powerless child in that situation. So, but then as I say that, and I know both of you are nodding in agreement, I can imagine people that are like outside of our world being like, oh my God, like here we go talking about, the childhood and the mother and the father. But, it affects us, and we do carry those skills and those sensitivities, right?
Yeah, because our entire nervous system is built through what we have been through.
Yes.
It's like literally a building that stands is based on the foundation that there is.
Yeah.
Right? And if you think about the nervous system, the foundation is your childhood, your adolescent. And that is going on, and that is what is continuing. And that is your reality that you're living every single day at your work, with your friends, with your partner, even if you're a parent and with your children, like it's showing up everywhere. And to kind of go back to what Rita was talking about, self-regulation, if you don't know that, if you don't understand that, then how can self-regulation happen?
Yeah, and you're just reenacting old patterns all the time.
Yes.
Right?
And it's helpful for our partners as well when they're able to understand, continuing with the silent treatment example. It's something that I've seen quite a bit, that, okay, I'm doing this and it's fulfilling my needs and it's rooted in my kind of history and baggage too. When he or she is reacting to it, they're not reacting necessarily to me only, it's me and what I represent. So I'm going to try really hard, even though the last thing that I want to do is have this conversation, to at least put a pause, not give you the silent treatment, but say, you know what, I'm feeling super activated right now. This conversation is not going to go anywhere productive. So I'm not leaving. I'm not punishing you. I'm just going to go, watch something over there, and like, let's reconvene in half an hour. And that way it kind of, it gives a space to each person and an acknowledgement of what each person needs, both now and in terms of what happened to them in the past.
Yeah, I think that it's really important to talk about this component of what we are familiar with.
Yes.
So if the chaos was our childhood, the silent treatment, and there's a lot of dysregulated states that I went through and I saw my caregivers go through. That is also what I'm seeking, because that's what I'm used to, because
Yeah,
the
that's the
nervous system-
schema.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's your schema, exactly, your familiarity. And your mind is working with what it knows, what it's familiar with. Your nervous system only functions with the familiarity.
Yeah.
So that is on each of us to understand, because with our understanding can come our partner's understanding. Right? And I think our work in couples therapy is quite a lot of that piece as well. And that's why we see a lot of times that when couples start couples therapy, they actually realize individual therapy is what they want to also simultaneously, look into, because there are so many pieces that they have to work to understand themselves better. And that can also be something that a lot of couples kind of opt for, to fully support the relationship, which is the goal that they have brought to us, in couples work, right?
Yeah, and to just add to that point of familiarity, you were saying that our nervous systems, our bodies need that familiarity. And I would add the word predictability, right? In our work with couples, what we also try to teach them is, how can we include predictable gestures, small rituals of connection / co-regulation every day. For example, a morning hug, or an evening hug, or an evening check-in about what was your day, what did it feel like to you. tell me about it, tell me more, I want to hear. These small gestures and small rituals of connection, they are gonna rewire that nervous system into a different predictability.
Yeah.
A predictability for, or wired for, safety and connection.
Connection, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point as well, because a lot of our conversation today has really focused on co-regulation or self-regulation when people are activated. But what you're describing, Rita, is this preventative element to it. It's like, okay, when I feel close and connected and safe, it makes any of these individual or couples blips feel like they're more manageable. And the predictability part is an important part, so that you know that you have something that you can count on. And there are so many forms depending on what people like, and they don't have to be super time consuming, right? It can be a matter of a few minutes a day. But there's something else that's sort of come up in our conversation, that's coming up for me now. It's this idea that as couples therapists, our job in a lot of ways is to translate for the couples. Even if they're speaking the same language, often they're like sending and receiving extremely different messages. And even with the rituals of connection, sometimes it's helpful for couples to express to one another, like, when I'm doing this, this is how I'm trying to reach for you. And have the other person be like, okay, I get that. I can kind of acknowledge that. I'll try and see that. However, and I really like it when you reach for me in this way, right? So we need to have we need to give credit where it's due and to see the good intention. We reference intention at the beginning, when it's there, but also we can proactively ask for what it is that we need. And I know it's easier said than done to do all of these things, but these are some of the skills that can really help with the self-regulation and the co-regulation and the overall well-being and satisfaction, I think.
Yeah. And you know what is beautiful is we actually time in and again see couples do that.
Yeah.
You know, it's so beautiful to see, you know, couples be in a very dysregulated space and then move, you know, attunement, safety, connection, co-regulation. It's really very beautiful to see that transition. And it's, you know, so my point being, it is possible. Yes, it's a lot of work. It is possible. And I just want, you know, everybody who's kind of watching this today, especially those in relationships, to understand that even though it feels like a lot of work, it is almost like, you know, once you get the rhythm, you know, it also can flow.
Yeah.
So to put in that work is to find that rhythm, and then there'll be a better flow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we only have a few minutes left. I'm going to do what I told you I'm going to do, which is a quick fire. Let me find the questions. Where are they? Okay. Ready? So I'm just going to say it and then just knee-jerk reaction.
Right.
One word that captures co-regulation for you.
Safety.
Connection.
Your body's first signal that you're dysregulated.
Breath.
Sweaty hands.
One myth about co-regulation you wish everyone knew.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
One myth about co-regulation you wish everyone knew. Correct some piece of misinformation about
That
co-regulation.
I need to be calm all the time.
Yeah, that it is personality. It's a co-regulation is something to do with personality, and that only certain personality types can co-regulate.
Okay. Daily micro practice that helps you feel grounded for each of you in your lives.
Oh, for me, breath work and a lot of sighs.
Yeah, for me also breathing and actually a lot of kisses and hugs.
You know, I will always think there was one time, Rita, I knew you both use the same room, sometimes room 6.
Yeah.
I walked in to talk with Joslin. I think about this and I see all of these things on the table. I'm like, what is going on here? And she picks up, what is the name of that contraption? And you start telling me this is how I show people about, you know, the breath and the anxiety. So that's what I associate with you.
Oh, actually, I would also like to add hugs. Hugs are really co-regulating for me.
Yeah. Okay, last one. Finish this sentence. Connection feels like.
Connection feels cozy and warm.
Yeah, I was about to say warmth as well. Connection feels like a warm hug.
Okay. Thank you both so much for your time and your insights today. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Me too.